it's hard to do the unreliable narrator stuff because I have a theory that I want to talk about not next, but coming up soon, where you have to generate some rules. And there's a cool theory out there that I could probably convince you, Kathleen, and I
Hit
wanted
me.
Luke and Dave to be on it. And we talked about it before. Like you can convince somebody, except for the fact that there's rules that have to be followed. You don't know the rules, Kathleen?
You don't
They
know the
have to be
rules?
followed. They have to be followed, and I think that they don't follow them, so that's why the theory is not happening. Okay,
Okay.
let's just get into that one now. Okay,
Hit it.
the theory is that Crystal was an imaginary friend. She was
Okay.
made up.
I have that one
Okay,
written down too.
right. So let's do that right now. Now, it really made a lot more sense before episode 5, but it still can make sense here if you want to go by the Fight Club rules. Okay, so let's talk about Fight Club here. I'm not doing any kind of spoiler warning for Fight Club. It came out 20 years ago. So so hopefully you guys have seen it because it's or read the books. But basically, we have a story where Edward Norton is the
Mhm.
main character who has no name. He is the narrator. We don't know this until the end of the reveal, but he's the narrator in the credits because he has an imaginary friend, an alter ego, dissociative personality, whatever you want to say, that is Brad Pitt, named Tyler Durden. So we find out that actually Edward Norton is Tyler Durden. Now, there's rules to this, Kathleen, and this is the theory here. So the theory is that Misty was so sick of being beat upon, beaten down verbally, we hate you, you stink, you poisoned us, blah, 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 making fun of her, whatever it is, that she had to disassociate and create someone that would take some of the blunt of it, would take some of it away from
Okay.
her and create a friend so that she had somebody that actually liked her and thought that she was awesome.
Okay.
Now, here's some evidence, okay? Here's some evidence for it. You sent me the picture. I asked you the question. She's not in the team picture.
Correct. And
Now that can be answered by just,
yes. Yes.
they said they're going to add survivors, and that's tough because when you're the writer of Yellowjackets, you need to figure out when you're going to stop adding survivors. You can't just say, "Oh, here's 3 more survivors
Okay,
you guys
wait.
didn't know about."
Okay. So I'm gonna pause you there just to
Okay.
say the girls that are in the picture. Okay, so this is what we're talking about, listeners. In the season 1 finale, season 1 episode 10, they go to the reunion and they are gazing upon this like glass thing with all this like Yellowjackets memorabilia, specifically from 1996, because they're like memorializing that team. There's a picture with all the teammates. Everybody but her is in it.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody but her is actually in season 1, but not until 9 and 10, I'm pretty sure. So when they're tripping at Doom coming in episode 9, they are in that episode. And me and Luke and everybody, like my first time around, I didn't even notice it. When you're podcasting, you notice every little fucking thing. So I was like texting the group in a fury. Like, who the fuck are these people? Like, are these just like wilderness people? Like, am I tripping? What's going on? So I actually, okay, I'm going to let you move forward. I have no objections yet based on your rules because she, as far as I can tell from that picture, she is not in it. Now we know Akila got recasted, but other than that, everybody is set in that picture. I'm pretty sure. And please prove us wrong in our comments on Twitter or Instagram. Binge on TV. You know the drill. Okay, Jamie, go ahead.
Okay, so now let's get into the Fight Club rules because a lot of people, when they hear this theory, would love to knock it down by saying, but people have talked to Crystal or about Crystal or towards Crystal or Misty's talking to Crystal or this and that, right? So the rules of Fight Club with Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, aka Tyler Durden, is that, and it's a great scene when the reveal happens. Okay, Brad Pitt explains that sometimes Edward pretended he's Crystal, Brad Pitt. Okay. Sometimes Edward is pretending he's Tyler Durden and he is being Tyler Durden. Sometimes he sees Tyler Durden and he's watching as a third party from the crowd, aka when the infamous the rules of Fight Club. Rule number 1, you don't talk about Fight Club. Okay. Or the infamous Brad Pitt beats the shit out of Jared Leto, Angel, who people don't really realize that's him in Fight Club, that's actually Edward Norton's character. So he's talking to him. There's times where there's talking to him straight up. There's times when they are outside of a bar and Tyler Durden says, I want you to hit me as hard as you can. They're behind a bar in the back parking lot. Edward Norton punches him as hard as he can. Then there's another scene where they're having beers together. And then when the reveal happens, you see that he is straight up talking to nobody. Okay. Now, I could go on, but here's the deal. When they talk about Crystal, if they don't say Crystal's name, then we're okay. Okay. Now we'll get to that in a second, but
they do, though.
They do. That's why it's going to have a problem. We do have some holes in this, and that's why we're done with it. But there's two or three big reasons why we're done with this. But I liked it for a long time because of the Tyler Durden rule. Now, there's a lot of scenes where people would go, well, what the hell? She's freaking talking to Crystal. Now, wouldn't they say, like, yo, you're being a weirdo. You're talking to Crystal? Because a lot of times when Tyler Durden, Edward, and Brad Pitt are talking to each other, they're by themselves. There are a lot of scenes where Misty's whispering in the corner with Crystal, and they're just being like, I love you in the corner. Yeah. And they go on their trip by themselves. And they do a lot. They do their singing conversation outside by themselves. We have the situation where Misty in the earlier seasons is sick of getting the wrong card. She says, you always make me draw that card. I don't want to do that anymore. Well, wouldn't it make sense to have a friend to do it with you? The friend draws the card. Now, you can go on with these all. The Tyler Durden rule is sweet. Now, though, here's the deal. Here's the problem. I thought it was money, and I forgot to check before this podcast. Okay, and I was going to do it, and I want the fans to tell us if we don't know, if Kathleen can't confirm. Now, my original thing was that it was awesome because Misty runs into the cabin after Crystal, quote unquote, dies and says, oh my God, I lost Crystal. I lost her. Right now, my original thought was that they all just go into a frenzy. And then immediately Van says, oh my gosh, that means Ty and Shauna are out there. And then they move on. And I know that confirmation exists that Misty is the only one out of every single person on the porch screaming Crystal. Everybody else is screaming for Ty and Shauna.
100%.
Now, the problem that I think happens, though, is that I think somebody answers right away and says, when Misty runs in, then we have to go get her. Now, if somebody answers her like that, that means that it's not imaginary anymore. Because with the Tyler Durden rule, once Edward Norton figures everything out, he starts calling people. He starts talking to people. He starts talking to Marla, and everybody's saying, what's my name? Or did I do this? Did I do that? And they're like, dude, what are you freaking talking about?
Yeah.
If Misty ran in and said, I lost Crystal, they should say, what the heck are you talking about?
Which is what I was going to say too. But okay, I have it right here. Ready? We're going to listen to it.
We have to go look for her, right?
So basically what happens is she says, I was looking for Crystal. I lost her. I was looking for her. And Akila says, then we have to go find her, Right. So
that cuts it.
That cuts it,
And if anybody in the entire show ever said Crystal, that cuts it. Now, I can't confirm that.
In the first scene, let me blow your mind, listeners. You know who says it? Jen. You know who Jen is? Neither do I. No, it's one of the new girls. Her name is Jen, and I had to look that up on IMDb because they really aren't doing a good job introducing these people's names. And in season 1 or episode 1, I said it's funny because 1, we got an Akila recast, right? So in the first episode, they make sure you know it because I liked Akila in season 1. Akila had some good lines. Akila has some great moments with Ty in season 2. But what they do in season 2 to make sure you know it's a recast and to not confuse you because they added new characters is say, hey, Akila. And she turns around and you're like, that's not Akila, but okay, I understand now.
Right.
I thought they were doing the same thing with Crystal, just being like, oh, they're making it a very blatant thing. In season 2, episode 1, Jen says, Crystal, stop singing. And she goes, I'm not singing, I'm humming. And there's a whole
Okay.
scene with like Misty's not even really around. It's just the new girls. You know, it's the blonde girl, it's Jen, and it's Crystal. So, Jimmy, I want to love this. I really do.
Yep.
And if anyone's going to do it, it's Misty, right? When I first saw this on TikTok, I was like, I mean, if anyone, I immediately started digging into it because I'm like, I'm mad if I didn't call
Right.
this. And it's true. I think that maybe there's a way to write around it, but I don't know. Do you think that part of me thinks that Misty actually killing this girl she finally had a connection with is better than her being like imagination? You know what I mean?
No, I think that I am fully out on the imaginary friend. I thought it was a fun conversation to have, and
Mm-hmm.
I really liked talking about the Tyler Durden rule. But I think the Tyler Durden rule actually makes us say we are out because another situation is when one of the girls, Mari, comes up. She says, "You two, blah blah blah," whatever she says. You
Yeah,
two need to pick a card, or you two, or what are you two weirdos doing? Whatever she says. If you acknowledge two, game over. You can't
correct.
have, and that it's not fully game over because you can always say that Misty's hallucinating them using another name, but then you're getting into the realm of you're just breaking the rules and you're introducing way too many rules because the Tyler Durden reveal is easy to do where you can if it was real and they didn't have some of these conversations, you could say like show Misty talking to herself, or you can have them talking to Misty and Crystal, but really it's just Misty. But as soon as you have them say Crystal or them say the two of you, then you have to somehow show us that Misty's the one hearing it and it's not really what they're saying, which then you're
Mm-hmm.
just getting way too much into like, yes, take 20 minutes and explain this weird twist to us. We that. So I definitely think that it's not true, but I liked it. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this Easter egg or this little hint, but when Missy's trying to bring Crystal back to life, did you see this on
Yeah.
TikTok? She's doing the staying alive.
It's same
And
song
then
from
when it's
earlier in the
playing in the
episode.
car, she freaks
Yeah.
out. So I do think that it's real and it's a trauma thing for her as well. She has her best friend. She finally has a best friend. It's weird that this best friend just begins to love her all of a sudden in season 2. But
Yeah.
whatever. She has a best friend finally. She tells the dark truth that
Mm-hmm.
she can never freaking tell anybody.
I
And
know.
then the friend. Now, the other part of the whole Tyler Durden thing that I liked was like she's talking to herself and she's like venting it out to see how she believes they would react. And Crystal's
Yeah.
reaction is confirming that she's like, I can never tell anybody. That was cool too. Like, I really wanted that to be a thing, but I agree that I think that it's just she's a real person and she's getting eaten probably next episode or in 2 episodes. They're going to go find that chick and eat her.
They would have to do some insane, backpedaling in order to make that real. But, Yellowjackets is the type of show that fuels these types of tinfoil hat theories, which means it's a great show, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's easily things to debunk it. And I almost brought it up a million times on the pod, but you only have so much time. And I'm like, I don't actually believe in this. So I'm glad we got to talk it through here. And if for some reason it becomes true, I mean, like you are one of the kings of the Fight Club school of thought, so I like we would have to revisit it if it somehow became true. But I had that one down to mention too. I think that it's worth mentioning. I think that the people who theorized it, like, it really has some legs until it doesn't.